Elise Morgan stared at the notification on her phone, the blue light illuminating her face in the darkness of her bedroom. 3:17 a.m., and sleep was nowhere to be found. She'd been restless all week since Marcus left for his business conference in Sedona. Something about real estate development opportunities that couldn't wait. The children had been devastated when he announced he wouldn't be there for their spring break as planned. Her thumb hovered over the Instagram notification. Cynthia Blake, one of Marcus's colleagues' wives, had tagged her in a comment. "Gorgeous sunset at L'Auberge. Elise Morgan, your husband has great taste in resorts. The kids are having a blast," Elise frowned. Marcus hadn't mentioned Cynthia would be there. In fact, he'd specifically said it was a small group of senior partners only, no spouses. She tapped on the notification, waited as the app loaded. The image showed a sprawling resort nestled against red rock formations, bathed in golden sunset light. Cynthia's husband stood smiling with their 2 children by a pool. And there in the background, unmistakable even at that distance, was Marcus, her husband of 15 years, with their children, Mia and Lucas. Her breath caught in her throat. "What the hell?" she whispered, sitting upright in bed. She zoomed in on the photo, studying it more carefully. Marcus was wearing the blue linen shirt she'd bought him for Christmas, holding a cocktail, his other arm around their daughter Mia's shoulders. Lucas, their 10-year-old son, was gesturing animatedly at something out of frame. Her hands trembled as she quickly switched to her text messages. Marcus's last update had come yesterday afternoon. "Meetings running long. Miss you. Give the kids a kiss for me." Elise's chest tightened as confusion turned to suspicion. If Marcus had taken the children to Sedona, why lie about it? Why tell her they were staying with his mother while he was at his conference? And why would he— Her thoughts froze as she swiped to another photo Cynthia had posted. This one showed a larger group at dinner, and at the far end of the table sat a woman Elise had never seen before. Heavily pregnant, laughing at something Marcus was saying from the seat beside her. His hand rested casually, intimately on her shoulder. The room seemed to tilt around her. Elise zoomed in on the woman's face, studied her features, mid-30s, striking with long dark hair and olive skin, wearing an expensive-looking green maternity dress, Elise's. Mouth went dry as she navigated to Marcus's location. On the family tracking app they'd installed for emergencies, it showed him exactly where Instagram said he was, L'Auberge de Sedona, an exclusive resort nearly 4 hours from their Phoenix home. Her fingers moved on autopilot, searching the woman's face on Instagram. 3 attempts later, she found her. Vanessa Delgado, interior designer. Her most recent post, from 6 months ago, announced her pregnancy with ultrasound photos and the caption, "Baby girl coming soon." So blessed, there was no mention of a father. Elise set down her phone, her mind racing through calculations. Marcus had been traveling frequently over the past year, Chicago, Seattle, Austin, always for critical meetings that couldn't be rescheduled. Always with his phone going mysteriously silent for hours at a time. The pieces were falling into place with sickening clarity. Marcus hadn't just lied about this trip. This was clearly not the beginning, but the culmination of something that had been unfolding for months, possibly years. She picked up her phone again, this time to call her sister. "Catherine? I need you to come over, now, and I need you to not ask questions until you get here." 40 minutes later, Catherine sat beside her on the bed, staring at the same photos, her expression darkening as Elise explained everything. "That absolute bastard," Catherine whispered. "He took your children to meet his pregnant girlfriend?" "Apparently," Elise said, her voice hollow. "What I don't understand is why bring our kids at all? Why not just go alone?" Catherine's eyes narrowed. "Because he's setting up his new life, Elise. Think about it. He's introducing the kids to her before the baby comes. This isn't just an affair. This is him planning an exit." The truth of her sister's words struck Elise like a physical blow. Marcus wasn't just cheating. He was creating a parallel family, preparing their children for a transition. The betrayal was so complete, so calculated, it left her breathless. "What are you going to do?" Catherine asked, taking her hand. Elise stared at the screen, at her husband's smiling face beside his pregnant mistress, at her children caught in his web of lies. Something cold and clear crystallized inside her. "First, I'm going to find out exactly what's going on," she said quietly, "and then I'm going to make sure he regrets every single lie he's ever told me." By dawn, Catherine had gone home to her husband with promises to return that evening. Elise sat in her home office, a notepad beside her computer, methodically building a timeline of her husband's deception. Marcus and Elise had met at Northwestern, married after graduation, and built what she'd thought was a perfect life: his thriving real estate development firm, her successful therapy practice, 2 beautiful children, and a stunning home in Scottsdale's most exclusive neighborhood. Now, she wondered how much of it had been real. She logged into their shared cloud account, where Marcus often backed up documents from his work laptop. His password had been the same for years: Mia Lucas 2010, the names of their children, and the year they bought their first home. So sentimental, she'd once thought. Now it seemed like convenient memory management rather than devotion. Elise found his email first. Hundreds of messages between Marcus and Vanessa dating back 18 months. She forced herself to read them chronologically, watching as professional correspondence about designing a new office building evolved into flirtation, then explicit exchanges, then logistics for meetups in various cities. "I can't wait until we don't have to hide anymore." Vanessa had written 3 months ago, "This baby deserves a father who's there every day." "Just a little longer," Marcus had replied. "I promise it will be worth it. I'm figuring out the best way to make this transition smooth for everyone." Elise's hands balled into fists. Transition. As if discarding 15 years of marriage was like changing jobs. She dug deeper, finding reservation confirmations for hotels, flight itineraries, even a receipt for a diamond bracelet from Tiffany that she'd certainly never received. Each discovery was another needle, but she forced herself to continue. Then she found it. A draft email to Marcus's lawyer. "Need to discuss options for divorce with minimal financial exposure. Concerned about practice valuation and property division given current circumstances. Elise won't agree to anything that doesn't benefit the kids, but need to protect new situation as well." Dated 3 weeks ago. Elise leaned back in her chair, surprisingly calm. So Marcus was planning his escape, arranging the pieces on the board to leave her with as little as possible while setting up his new life with Vanessa and their baby. She reached for her phone and called Rachel Whitman, her closest friend since college and, conveniently, one of the city's most respected divorce attorneys. "I need to see you. Today. It's an emergency." 3 hours later, Elise sat in Rachel's office, having laid out everything she'd discovered. "He's trying to get ahead of this," Rachel said, making notes. "The good news is he hasn't filed anything yet. And now we know he's planning to hide assets." "What do I do?" Elise asked. Rachel set down her pen. "First, we document everything. Bank accounts, investments, property holdings, anything with both your names or that was acquired during the marriage. Second, we get your financials in order. Do you have access to money he can't control?" Elise nodded. "My practice is separate. I have my own accounts." "Good. Third, and this is important, Elise, don't confront him yet. The minute he knows that you know, he'll accelerate his plans." "But he has my children," Elise said, her voice cracking for the first time. "He has Mia and Lucas with that woman." Rachel's expression softened. "They're coming back Sunday, right?" 4 more days. I know it's hard, but you need those days to prepare. If you confront him now, he might not bring them back at all." The thought sent ice through Elise's veins. "Here's what we're going to do," Rachel continued. "We'll file for emergency custody the moment they're back in town. With evidence of his deception and the fact he took them out of state without your knowledge or consent, we'll have a strong case." Elise's phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Hey babe, presentation went great. Taking clients to dinner tonight. How are things at home?" She showed it to Rachel, who shook her head in disgust. Play along, Rachel advised. Let him think everything's normal, Elise typed back. So proud of you. Everything's fine here. Just missing you all. She set down the phone, feeling sick at the pretense. I don't know if I can do this. You can, Rachel said firmly. And there's something else we need to discuss. She hesitated. Arizona is a community property state. That means all assets acquired during the marriage are divided equally, regardless of who earned them or whose name is on the title. I know that. What you might not know is that Marcus could potentially claim a portion of your therapy practice's value since it was built during your marriage. Elise stared at her. He wouldn't. Based on that email draft? He absolutely would. Rachel leaned forward. Elise, I need to ask you something and I need you to be honest. Do you want to just get through this with minimal damage, or do you want to fight? Elise thought of Marcus and Vanessa laughing together at that resort, of her children being introduced to their father's new family, of the careful, calculated betrayal that had been unfolding for over a year. I want everything he tries to take from me, she said quietly. And I want him to understand exactly what he's losing, Rachel nodded slowly. Then we need to be as strategic as he's being, and we need to start now. That evening, Catherine returned with takeout and a determined expression. They sat at Elise's kitchen island, strategizing while Elise picked at her pad thai. Rachel thinks we can file for emergency custody as soon as the kids are back, Elise explained. But Marcus is definitely planning to hide assets before filing for divorce. Catherine set down her fork. What about his business partner, David? You two were always close. Would he tell you if something suspicious was happening with the company? Elise considered this. David Chen had been Marcus's partner for 12 years and had become a family friend. His wife, Lynn, was in Elise's book club. Maybe. But if Marcus is moving money around, would David even know? And could I trust him not to warn Marcus? Trust is in short supply right now, Catherine agreed. But information is power. Elise reached for her phone. I'm going to call Lynn, see if she and David want to come over tomorrow. I'll feel her out first, see if she knows anything. Good idea. What else did Rachel suggest? Getting proof of everything? Photos, emails, financial records, anything showing he's been planning this and hiding assets? Elise paused. And she suggested I hire a private investigator. Catherine's eyebrows shot up. Seriously? To document his relationship with Vanessa, especially since she's about to have his child. Rachel says it strengthens my position for custody and support. Do it, Catherine said without hesitation. And while you're at it, maybe the PI can find out more about this Vanessa person. How much does Marcus really know about her? The question hung in the air as Elise's mind raced with possibilities. What if Vanessa had secrets too? By the following afternoon, Elise had hired Thomas Reeves, a former police detective turned private investigator who came highly recommended by Rachel. He'd already begun compiling information on Vanessa Delgado. She's 35, born in Los Angeles, graduated from USC with a degree in design, he reported over the phone. Moved to Phoenix 4 years ago and started her own interior design firm. No criminal record, good credit rating. She was briefly married in her 20s, divorced after 3 years, no children from that marriage. And her relationship with my husband? Based on social media and credit card records, they likely met when his firm hired her to design their new offices 18 months ago. They've been in regular contact since, with meetings in multiple cities coinciding with your husband's business trips. Elise closed her eyes, imagining the timelines overlapping. Is there anything unusual in her background? Anything Marcus might not know? I'm still digging, Thomas replied. But there's one interesting note. She changed her name after her divorce. She was born Vanessa Morales. Is that significant? Possibly not, Thomas said. But I'll keep looking. That evening, Lynn and David Chen arrived for dinner, both embracing Elise warmly. We've missed you at the last 2 dinner parties, Lynn said. Marcus mentioned you've been busy with new clients. Elise maintained her composure. Work has been demanding. How are things at the firm, David? Over wine and pasta, she carefully steered the conversation toward business, watching David's expressions for any sign of discomfort. Actually, David said, refilling his glass, We're in an interesting position right now. The Westridge development is nearly complete, and we're looking at several new projects. Marcus mentioned you might be restructuring soon. Elise said, a fishing expedition based on nothing. David's slight pause was telling. Did he? Well, we've discussed some options, but nothing's decided. Lynn glanced at her husband. I thought you said that was confidential until next quarter. An awkward silence fell over the table. David cleared his throat. We're just exploring possibilities, that's all. Elise pressed gently. It must be exciting, though. Marcus has been so busy with all these trips lately. That's the nature of expansion, David replied carefully. Though I'm handling most of the Seattle project now that Marcus is focused on the Sedona development. Elise kept her expression neutral. Sedona? I thought that was just a preliminary site visit. David's eyes widened slightly. Right, yes. Just exploratory at this stage. When they left 2 hours later, Elise was certain of two things. David knew something about changes to the business, and he'd been surprised that she'd mentioned Sedona. The moment their car pulled away, she called Rachel. I think Marcus is planning to restructure the company before filing for divorce. His partner seemed uncomfortable when I brought it up. That would be consistent with trying to undervalue assets, Rachel said. We need to move quickly. Can you get copies of his business documents? Some, Elise said. He keeps files in his home office. Get everything you can. And Elise? Be careful. Don't leave any trace that you've been looking. The next morning, her phone rang. It was Thomas Reeves. I found something interesting about Vanessa Delgado, or Morales as she was born. Her ex-husband filed a restraining order against her during their divorce proceedings, claiming she was unstable and threatened to ruin his life when he said he wanted to end the marriage. Elise sat up straighter. Was the order granted? Yes, but it expired years ago. There's more, though. Vanessa has a history of attaching herself to successful married men. Before your husband, she was linked to a surgeon in Los Angeles. That relationship ended when his wife discovered them. Did the surgeon leave his wife? No. He broke it off with Vanessa and reconciled with his wife. According to my source, Vanessa didn't take it well. There were harassing calls, showing up at their home, threats to expose their affair to his employer. Elise's mind was racing. Does Marcus know any of this? I can't say for certain, but it's not public information. I had to dig through court records and interview people who knew her. Send me everything you have, Elise said. And keep digging. As she hung up, a plan was forming in her mind. Marcus hadn't just betrayed her. He'd put their entire family at risk by bringing this woman into their lives. And he'd done it all while plotting to leave Elise with as little as possible. She opened her laptop and began typing an email to Rachel. I think I know what we need to do. Friday morning brought a video call from Marcus and the children. Elise braced herself, putting on her best smile as their faces appeared on screen. Mom! Mia exclaimed, her 12-year-old face glowing with excitement. Grandma's resort is amazing. There's a creek right outside our cabin. Elise's heart twisted. That sounds wonderful, sweetheart. Lucas pushed his way into frame. And I saw a javelina yesterday. It was right on the path. Careful with those, buddy, she cautioned, fighting to keep her voice steady. Marcus appeared behind them, his familiar smile both comforting and sickening. They're having a blast. How are things at home? Quiet, she replied truthfully. Just catching up on work. How's your mom doing? The lie came smoothly to him. She's good. Loving having the kids here. Elise swallowed hard. His mother was in Boston, not Sedona. She'd confirmed that with a casual phone call yesterday, asking Judith Morgan about her book club selection, never mentioning the children or Sedona. I miss you all, she said. Meaning only her children. We'll be home Sunday afternoon, Marcus replied. Love you. Love you too, she said automatically, the words tasting like ash. After the call ended, she sat motionless, trembling with rage and heartbreak. Then she returned to her laptop where Rachel had sent over draft documents for emergency custody and the divorce filing, ready for her review. Thomas Reeves called later that afternoon with more information. Vanessa Delgado is 8 months pregnant, due in approximately 3 weeks according to social media posts visible to her friends. And I've confirmed she's been telling people the baby is your husband's. Any more on her background? Yes, and it's significant. During her marriage, she and her ex-husband tried fertility treatments without success. After their divorce, her ex married someone else and had twins within a year. Vanessa apparently made accusations that he had deliberately sabotaged their fertility treatments because he didn't want children with her. Was there any truth to that? None that I could find. Medical records showed normal treatment protocols. The fertility specialist said, sometimes these things just don't work. But Vanessa couldn't accept that. She became fixated on the idea that her ex denied her the chance to be a mother. Elise processed this information. So when she got pregnant with Marcus's child, it likely represented something she's wanted desperately for years, Thomas confirmed. And based on her history, she won't give up easily if threatened. Thank you, Thomas. This helps clarify some things. After hanging up, Elise reviewed everything she'd learned about Vanessa Delgado, a woman with a history of unstable behavior when relationships ended, who had desperately wanted a child and who now believed she was about to start a new life with Marcus. Meanwhile, Marcus was planning a calculated exit from their marriage, likely draining shared assets and restructuring his business to minimize what Elise would receive. The pieces of Elise's counterplan were falling into place. She wouldn't just react to Marcus's betrayal, she would get ahead of it. She called Rachel again. I need to move up our timeline. Can we file the emergency custody petition electronically on Sunday, right when they get back? Yes, but are you sure? Once we file, everything changes. I'm sure, Elise said firmly. And I need one more thing. Can you connect me with a forensic accountant? I need to understand exactly what Marcus has been doing with our money. By Saturday, Elise had a clearer picture of her husband's financial maneuvers. The forensic accountant had found evidence of Marcus, gradually moving funds to a new LLC established 6 months earlier, an entity that didn't include Elise's name anywhere in its documentation. She'd also discovered, through careful examination of his home office files, that the Sedona development was real, but it wasn't just a business venture. Marcus had purchased a residential property there 3 months ago, using the LLC. The down payment had come from their joint investment account. He was literally building his new life with her money. That evening, she received a text from Thomas Reeves. Need to speak urgently. Call when you can. What is it? She asked when they connected. I've been monitoring social media accounts connected to the resort where your husband is staying, Thomas explained. A staff member posted a photo today that's since been deleted, but I captured it. I'm sending it to you now. The image showed a private dining room decorated with flowers and a banner reading, Welcome, Baby Sophia. Marcus stood with his arm around Vanessa, both beaming at the camera. Elise's children were visible in the background. It appears they had some kind of pre-birth celebration, Thomas said gently. With your children present. Elise's vision blurred with tears of rage. They're having a baby shower. He took my children to his mistress's baby shower. After thanking Thomas and ending the call, Elise sat in her kitchen, staring at the photo. The complete, calculated cruelty of it struck her to her core. This wasn't just an affair that had resulted in pregnancy. This wasn't just financial deception. This was Marcus systematically replacing her, using their children as props in his new family narrative, all while planning to leave her with as little as possible. She picked up her phone and texted Rachel. Change of plans. I need everything ready by tomorrow morning. They're coming home early. Then she texted Marcus. Missing you all too much. Coming to surprise you in Sedona tomorrow. Don't tell the kids! Send me the resort details. Can't wait to see you all. His response came 20 minutes later. No need. We're actually wrapping up early. Be home tomorrow by noon. Let's do something special together tomorrow night. Elise smiled grimly at his obvious panic. Perfect. Can't wait to hear all about the trip. Drive safe. She set down her phone and walked to their bedroom closet, pulling out Marcus's favorite suitcase, the one he'd supposedly taken to Sedona. It sat exactly where it always did. Game on, she whispered to herself. Sunday morning, Elise sat at her kitchen island, documents spread before her. Rachel on speakerphone. Everything's in place, Rachel confirmed. The emergency custody petition is ready to file electronically the moment you give the word. Sheriff's deputies can serve him with papers as early as this afternoon. And the financial records? The forensic accountant's preliminary report is attached to the filing. It shows clear evidence of asset hiding and community property being transferred to the LLC. Elise checked her watch. 11:15 a.m. They should be home in less than an hour. Are you sure you want to confront him alone? I can be there. No, Elise said firmly. This needs to be just us. But stay by your phone. After Rachel hung up, Elise moved methodically through the house, preparing. She set the table for lunch, 4 places, none for Vanessa. She put copies of key documents in a folder on the kitchen counter. She made sure her phone was fully charged, ready to record. At 11:47, she heard the garage door open. Taking a deep breath, she stood in the kitchen, smoothing her dress, a fitted blue sheath that Marcus had always said was his favorite. The door from the garage burst open, and Mia rushed in first. Mom, you won't believe how awesome Sedona was! Elise embraced her daughter, breathing in her familiar scent. I can't wait to hear all about it. Lucas was next, talking a mile a minute about hiking trails and wildlife. Elise hugged him tightly, fighting back tears. Her children were innocent in all this, and she would protect them at all costs. Finally, Marcus appeared, looking tense despite his smile. Hey, babe. Surprised to see you up and about? Thought you'd be at yoga. I wanted to welcome you all home, she replied evenly. I made lunch. Marcus set down their bags, scanning her face carefully. Great. Let me just freshen up first. Actually, Elise said, her voice steady. Kids, can you take your bags to your rooms and wash up? I need to talk to Dad for a minute. Once the children had thundered upstairs, Marcus approached her, lowering his voice. Everything okay? How was your mother? Elise asked. He barely hesitated. Good. She loved having the kids there. That's strange, Elise said, maintaining eye contact, since I spoke to her on Friday. She was at her book club in Boston. Marcus froze, his expression shifting from confusion to alarm. Elise, don't, she cut him off, sliding her phone across the counter. On the screen was the Instagram photo of him with Vanessa and the Welcome Baby Sophia banner. Anything you say now would just be another lie. The color drained from Marcus's face as he realized the extent of what she knew. How long have you been planning this, Marcus? The Sedona property purchase through your secret LLC? The gradual transfer of our assets? The divorce filing you've been drafting with your lawyer? He took a step back. It's not what you think, it's exactly what I think, she interrupted. You've been sleeping with Vanessa for at least a year. She's pregnant with your child, a daughter you're naming Sophia. And you're planning to leave me with as little as possible once she gives birth. Marcus's shock gave way to cold calculation, his features hardening. You've been spying on me? No. I've been discovering what my husband has been doing behind my back. There's a difference. She opened the folder on the counter, showing him the financial records. Did you really think I wouldn't find out about any of this? Elise, we can talk about this rationally. Rationally? Her voice rose slightly. You took our children to your pregnant mistress's baby shower and told them they were visiting their grandmother. What part of that is rational? Marcus glanced toward the stairs, lowering his voice urgently. Keep your voice down. The kids are exactly why we're having this conversation, Elise said, maintaining her composure. Because while you've been planning your exit, I've been planning too. She slid another document toward him, the emergency custody petition. This will be filed electronically in 30 minutes. Sheriff's deputies will serve you with divorce papers this afternoon. Marcus scanned the document, his face darkening. You can't do this. I already have. The judge will see how you took our children across state lines without my knowledge or consent, how you've been hiding assets, how you've been planning to abandon your family for months. This is insane, he hissed. I've never abandoned anyone. I provide for this family. I was going to make sure you were taken care of. Like you're taking care of your business? By shifting assets to an LLC I'm not part of? By purchasing property for your new family with our joint funds? Elise shook her head. Your definition of taking care of seems to involve stealing from me while lying to my face. Marcus's expression shifted to something uglier. You want a war? Fine. But you won't win, Elise. I've thought this through more carefully than you realize. I'm sure you have, she replied calmly. Just like I'm sure you've thoroughly vetted Vanessa Morales. Or did you not know that's her real name? Did you know about the restraining order her ex-husband had against her? Or how she harassed a married surgeon in Los Angeles when he broke off their affair? Uncertainty flickered across Marcus's face, confirming her suspicion. He hadn't known? That's what I thought, Elise continued. You've been so busy planning your escape that you never bothered to check who you're escaping to. These are just accusations. They're court records, Marcus. Public documents. She pushed another file toward him containing Thomas's research. Did you know she tried fertility treatments with her ex-husband? That when they failed and he had children with someone else, she accused him of sabotaging their chances at parenthood? Does that sound like someone stable to you? Marcus stared at the documents, visibly shaken. You didn't just betray me, Elise said quietly. You put our children at risk by bringing them into contact with someone unstable, someone with a documented history of vindictive behavior when relationships end. She's changed, Marcus said, but his voice lacked conviction. She's not like that anymore. Maybe. Or maybe you're about to discover exactly what happens when Vanessa doesn't get what she wants. Elise closed the folder. Either way, I'm not waiting around to find out. What do you want? Marcus asked finally, defeat creeping into his tone. Full custody of the children. The house. Half of your business. The true half. Not whatever fraction you've been planning to offer after hiding assets. And a restraining order preventing Vanessa from having any contact with Mia and Lucas until a full psychological evaluation can be conducted. Marcus blanched. That's ridiculous, is it? You lied to me, to our children, to everyone around us. You used our money to set up a new life with someone who has a history of unstable behavior. You plan to strip me of my fair share of our marital assets. Tell me what part of my demands seems unreasonable in light of that. Before Marcus could respond, Mia appeared at the kitchen entrance. Mom? Dad? Is everything okay? You sound upset. Elise composed herself immediately. Everything's fine, sweetheart. Dad and I are just discussing some grown-up stuff. Why don't you and Lucas get settled in, and we'll have lunch in a bit? Once Mia had reluctantly retreated, Marcus lowered his voice. Don't do this, Elise, not like this. We can work something out. We certainly can, she agreed. Starting with you calling Vanessa right now and telling her the truth, that you made a mistake, that you won't be leaving your family, and that you won't be moving her into the Sedona house you bought with my money. Marcus stared at her, conflicted. And if I refuse? Then the custody filing goes through and, she checked her watch, 20 minutes. And I show the children the baby shower photos myself, explaining exactly why their father has been lying to them. His face contorted with anger and panic. That's cruel. They don't deserve to be hurt like that. No, they don't, Elise agreed, which is why you should spare them by doing the right thing now. For a long moment, Marcus stood frozen in indecision. Then, slowly, he reached for his phone. Elise watched as Marcus stepped onto the back patio to make his call, his shoulders slumped in defeat. Through the glass doors, she could see his face cycling through emotions, pleading, arguing, frustration, as Vanessa presumably reacted to his sudden change of heart. Inside, Elise sent a quick text to Rachel. Hold on filing. Confrontation in progress. Marcus calling Vanessa now. Her phone rang almost immediately. Are you sure about this? Rachel asked. Once you open this door, you can't go back. I'm sure. He needs to face the consequences of his actions. And what about the long term? Do you really want him to stay if this is who he is? Elise watched Marcus through the window, his free hand gesticulating wildly as he argued with Vanessa. I don't know yet, but I want him to dismantle what he built with her before we decide anything else. After hanging up, she went upstairs to check on the children. Mia was organizing her souvenirs on her bed, rocks, postcards, a small dream catcher. Did you have fun with Dad and Grandma? Elise asked, sitting beside her. Mia hesitated. Yeah, it was nice. The resort was really pretty. What did Grandma think of it? Another hesitation. She liked it a lot. Elise nodded, heart aching at her daughter's discomfort with the lie. Mia, is there anything you want to tell me about the trip? Anything that seemed strange or confusing? Mia looked down, fiddling with a red rock. There was this lady there. Dad's friend. She's going to have a baby. I see, Elise said carefully. And how did that make you feel? Weird, Mia admitted. Dad said she's a client and we were being nice because she's alone and having a baby soon. But she trailed off. But what, sweetheart? They seemed really close. And we had this party for her baby, but Dad said not to mention it to you because it was a business thing and would be boring. Elise's heart broke at the confusion in her daughter's voice. Marcus had put their children in an impossible position, asking them to compartmentalize and lie. Thank you for telling me, she said gently. You know you can always tell me anything, right? Even if someone asks you not to. Mia nodded, looking relieved. Is Dad in trouble? Dad and I have some things to work through, Elise said carefully. But I want you to know that none of this is your fault, and both of us love you very much. Downstairs, she could hear Marcus return inside, his voice calling for her. She squeezed Mia's hand. Why don't you finish unpacking? We'll have lunch soon. When she returned to the kitchen, Marcus looked utterly drained, his face pale. She didn't take it well. I'm shocked, Elise said dryly. She's threatening to come here, to tell you and the kids everything herself. He ran a hand through his hair. She says if I won't leave you, she'll make sure you leave me. And this surprises you? I didn't think she'd react like this. She was always so understanding, so supportive. While you were promising her everything she wanted, Elise finished for him. What did you expect when you pulled the rug out from under her? Marcus sank into a chair. What do we do now? The we wasn't lost on Elise. Already in the face of Vanessa's reaction, he was retreating to the safety of their partnership. First, you tell me everything, she said, sitting across from him. No more lies, no more secrets. Then we decide if there's anything left worth saving. Over the next hour, as the children remained upstairs, Marcus confessed the full extent of his relationship with Vanessa, how it had begun as a professional connection, evolved into an affair during a business trip to Chicago, and gradually transformed into something more serious as Vanessa pressed for commitment. When she told me she was pregnant, she was so happy, he explained. She said it was meant to be, that the universe was giving us a sign. And you believe that? Elise asked incredulously. I was caught up in it all. The excitement, the secrecy. It felt like another life I could step into. He looked down. I convinced myself I was doing right by everyone. That you'd be better off without someone who could betray you like this. That the kids would adjust. While you kept most of our assets, Elise added. He had the decency to look ashamed. I was scared of losing everything. So, you decided to take everything from me instead. Before he could respond, his phone began buzzing repeatedly. Text messages from Vanessa, one after another. He showed the screen to Elise. You can't do this to me and our daughter. I've sacrificed everything for you. If you won't leave her, I'll make sure she leaves you. I'm coming over. Your family deserves to know the truth about us. She knows our address? Elise asked, alarmed. Marcus nodded miserably. She insisted on knowing where I lived. For emergencies, she said. Call the police, Elise said immediately. Tell them there's a potentially unstable woman threatening to come to our home. I can't do that to her. She's carrying my child. A child you just told her you won't be leaving your family for, Elise pointed out. Marcus, think about it. Based on what you know of her past behavior and what I've shown you, do you really think she's going to accept this calmly? As if in answer, Marcus's phone rang. Vanessa's name flashed on the screen. Put it on speaker, Elise instructed. He complied, setting the phone on the table between them. Marcus? Vanessa's voice was eerily calm. We need to talk about this face to face. I'm on my way to your house. Vanessa, that's not a good idea, Marcus replied, looking at Elise with growing alarm. We can meet somewhere else tomorrow. No, she cut him off. I'm tired of being your secret. I'm tired of waiting for you to keep your promises. If you won't tell your wife and kids about us, I will. There's nothing to tell, Marcus said firmly. I made a mistake. I'm staying with my family. A long silence followed. Then Vanessa's voice returned, cold and precise. You promised me a family, Marcus. You promised me we'd be together once Sophia was born. You promised me the house in Sedona. I know, and I'm sorry. Sorry isn't good enough. Her voice rose sharply. What about our daughter? What about me? I left everything for you. Vanessa, please. You have 30 minutes, she said abruptly. Either you tell your wife you're leaving, or I'll be there to tell her everything myself, including how you promised me you'd leave her months ago. The call ended, leaving a heavy silence in its wake. Call the police, Elise repeated, more urgently. Now. This time, Marcus didn't argue. As he made the call, explaining the situation to the dispatcher, Elise sent a text to her sister. Need you to come get the kids ASAP. Emergency. Catherine responded immediately. On my way. 10 minutes? Next, Elise called Rachel. The situation has escalated. Marcus's pregnant girlfriend is threatening to come to our house. Police have been called. I need to know our legal options if things get worse. Document everything, Rachel advised. Record any interactions if she shows up. If she makes threats, that strengthens our case for the restraining order. By the time Marcus finished with the police, who promised to send a car as soon as possible, Catherine had arrived. Elise quickly explained that she and Marcus needed to handle an urgent situation and asked Catherine to take the children for ice cream, then back to her house for a few hours. The children, though confused, were excited for an unexpected outing with their aunt. As they drove away, Elise felt a wave of relief that they would be spared whatever was about to unfold. Now what? Marcus asked, standing in the driveway beside her. Now we wait, Elise replied grimly. And you hope the police arrive before she does. They didn't have to wait long. Just 15 minutes after Catherine left with the children, a silver SUV screeched to a halt in front of their house. Vanessa emerged, her pregnant belly prominent beneath a flowing red dress, her face a mask of fury. Inside, Elise said to Marcus, pulling him toward the door. We don't want to create a scene in the front yard. Marcus! Vanessa called out, striding up the walkway with surprising speed. Don't you dare hide from me! Elise ushered Marcus into the house, closing the door behind them just as Vanessa reached the porch. The doorbell rang immediately, followed by pounding when they didn't answer. We should let her in, Marcus said, looking panicked. She's just going to get more upset. That's exactly what she wants, Elise replied. To get inside our home, to create a confrontation on her terms. We wait for the police, the pounding continued, along with Vanessa's voice carrying through the door. I know you're in there. Open this door right now. Marcus's phone buzzed with a text. Either you open this door or I start telling the neighbors everything. She's bluffing, Elise said, though she wasn't entirely sure. The doorbell stopped, and for a moment they thought Vanessa might have given up. Then came the sound of shattering glass from the side of the house. She broke a window, Marcus whispered in horror. Elise grabbed her phone, calling 911 again. Intruder breaking into our home, she reported urgently. Previous call reference number 5742. Officers already dispatched, but situation escalated. They heard footsteps in the side hallway. Then Vanessa appeared in the living room doorway, a potted plant from the side table clutched in her hand. There you are, she said, her voice unnervingly calm despite her disheveled appearance. Hiding with your wife while I stand outside like some crazy person? Vanessa, Marcus began, stepping forward with his hands raised placatingly. You need to leave. The police are on their way. The police? She laughed, a brittle sound. Are you going to have me arrested, Marcus? The mother of your child? You broke into our home, Elise said evenly, keeping her phone visible as she recorded the encounter. That's a crime, regardless of who you are. Vanessa's gaze shifted to Elise, her expression hardening. So you're the wife? The one he's been trying to leave for months. I think you've misunderstood the situation, Elise replied. maintaining her composure despite her racing heart. Marcus isn't leaving anyone. He made a mistake and now it's over. Over? Vanessa repeated, her voice rising. We're having a baby in 3 weeks. We picked out names together. He bought us a house. He bought a house with my money, Elise corrected. And now he's realized what a terrible mistake he's made. Vanessa turned to Marcus, her eyes wild. Is that true? Am I just a mistake to you now? After everything? Marcus looked trapped between the two women. Vanessa, I'm sorry. I got caught up in something I shouldn't have. I have a family, responsibilities. I'm your family too. Vanessa screamed, hurling the potted plant at the wall where it shattered, sending dirt and ceramic shards across the hardwood floor. We're your family. Me and Sophia. Please calm down, Marcus pleaded, glancing anxiously at the mess. This isn't good for the baby. Don't tell me what's good for my baby, she snarled. You promised me we'd be together. You promised me the children would live with us part-time in Sedona. You showed me paint swatches for the nursery last week. Elise felt each revelation like a physical blow. Even as recently as last week, Marcus had been actively planning their future together. It was wrong, Marcus said quietly. All of it. I've hurt everyone involved and I'm sorry. Sorry? Vanessa's laugh was hollow. You think sorry fixes this? She placed both hands protectively over her belly. What about Sophia? What do I tell her when she asks why her father abandoned us? I won't abandon my child, Marcus insisted. I'll support you both financially, be involved in her life. I don't want your money, Vanessa shouted. I want what you promised me, a family, a life together. She turned to Elise, her expression suddenly calculating. Did he tell you everything, Elise? Did he tell you he was going to leave you after the new year? That we've been furnishing our house in Sedona for months? That he told me he hasn't loved you in years? Each word was carefully chosen to wound, and Elise felt them land precisely as intended. Still, she maintained her composure, aware that Vanessa was trying to provoke an emotional response. I know enough, Elise said calmly. I know about your history with your ex-husband, about the restraining order, about your harassment of the surgeon in Los Angeles. I know you've been planning to trap my husband into leaving his family. Vanessa's face transformed with rage. You think you know me? You know nothing. She took a step toward Elise. You sit in your perfect house with your perfect life, judging me? Marcus came to me because he was miserable with you. Vanessa, stop, Marcus interjected. That's not true, isn't it? She challenged. What about all those nights you complained about how cold she was? How she was always too busy with her practice to pay attention to you? How the passion had died years ago? Elise felt a stab of pain, but kept her expression neutral. Vanessa, the police will be here any minute. You've already committed breaking and entering. Do you really want to add assault to that? As if on cue, they heard sirens in the distance. You've ruined everything, Vanessa said, her voice suddenly quiet. She looked at Marcus with such raw betrayal that even Elise felt a flicker of sympathy. You promised me, Marcus. You promised me I wouldn't be alone this time. The vulnerability in her voice made Marcus take a step toward her. I know. I'm sorry. But as he approached, Vanessa's expression shifted again, hardening into something cold and determined. She reached into her purse and pulled out a manila envelope. I came prepared, she said, her voice steadying. Since you're choosing her over me and our daughter, she deserves to know everything. She opened the envelope and extracted several pages, handing them to Elise. Emails, text messages, hotel receipts. Every promise he made me. Every lie he told you. It's all there. Elise took the papers, glancing at Marcus, whose face had gone completely white. I was going to use these if he tried to deny paternity, Vanessa explained, suddenly eerily calm. But now they can serve another purpose. Now his wife can see exactly who she's fighting to keep. The sirens grew louder, now just blocks away. They're coming for you, not me, Elise reminded her. Breaking and entering is still a crime, even if you're pregnant. Vanessa smiled thinly. You think I care about that now? Everything I wanted is gone. She placed a protective hand on her belly again. But at least Sophia and I still have each other. Which is more than I can say for your family after you read those. As blue lights flashed through the windows, Vanessa walked calmly to the front door and opened it, hands raised in surrender, just as two police officers approached the porch. "I'm the one you're looking for," she told them with unsettling tranquility. I broke the window. "I'll go quietly." Marcus and Elise watched in stunned silence as the officers led Vanessa away, speaking to her in low, measured tones as they helped her into the back of their cruiser. Left alone in their violated home, surrounded by broken glass and scattered dirt, Elise looked down at the papers in her hand, physical evidence of every betrayal, every lie, every moment Marcus had spent building a life with another woman while dismantling theirs. "Elise," Marcus began, his voice barely audible. She held up a hand, silencing him. "Not now. Not until I've read every word." The police took statements from both of them about Vanessa's break-in. Marcus downplayed the situation, characterizing it as a misunderstanding between friends. But Elise was blunt about the facts. Vanessa had broken into their home after making threats. When asked if they wanted to press charges, Marcus hesitated, but Elise was firm. "Yes," she told the officer, "and we'll be filing for a restraining order as well." After the police left, promising to follow up once Vanessa had been processed, a heavy silence fell over the house. Marcus began half-heartedly cleaning up the broken pottery and glass, while Elise sat at the kitchen table, methodically reading through every document Vanessa had provided. Email exchanges where Marcus complained about his marriage. Text messages planning their future together. Hotel receipts from their rendezvous in various cities. Photos of them together, looking happy, looking in love. Ultrasound images with baby Morgan printed at the top. And most damning of all, a handwritten letter from Marcus to Vanessa, dated just 2 weeks ago. As we get closer to Sophia's arrival, I find myself more certain than ever that this is the right path. Seeing the Sedona house come together, imagining our life there with the children part-time, I know we're creating something beautiful from what began as a mistake. I promise you by spring all of this secrecy will be behind us. You, me, Sophia, and eventually Mia and Lucas too. A family remade, stronger and happier. All my love. Melise set down the papers, feeling oddly calm in the face of such complete betrayal. The Marcus she thought she knew, her partner of 15 years, father of her children, the man she'd built a life with, had never really existed. Or perhaps he had, once, but that person was gone now, replaced by someone capable of such calculated deception. "I've finished cleaning up," Marcus said, hovering in the doorway. "Can we talk now?" "About what?" Elise asked, gathering the papers into a neat stack. "About how you told your pregnant girlfriend you were creating a beautiful new family? About how you planned to have our children live with you part-time in Sedona? Or about how you promised her that by spring you'd be free of me?" Marcus flinched at each question. "Elise, I know how bad this looks. It doesn't look bad, Marcus. It is bad. It's who you are." She stood up, remarkably steady. "I called Catherine. The children are staying with her tonight. I think you should pack a bag and leave." "Leave? This is my home, is it?" she challenged. "Because according to everything I've read today, your home is a property in Sedona that you purchased for your new family using our joint funds. A property you've been seeing come together while lying to my face." "I made a terrible mistake," he admitted, his voice breaking. "I got caught up in something I didn't know how to get out of. Vanessa was so certain about everything, so convinced we were meant to be together. After a while, I started believing it too. And now? What do you believe now?" "That I've been an idiot," he said simply. "That I nearly threw away everything good in my life for a fantasy that was never going to work." Elise studied him, searching for any hint of the man she'd married. "The problem, Marcus, is that I don't know if anything you say is true anymore. For over a year, you've been living a double life. You've been systematically lying to me, to our children, to everyone around us. You've been moving our assets, planning your exit, all while pretending everything was normal." "I know," he acknowledged quietly. "And I don't expect forgiveness. But please don't make me leave tonight. Let me talk to the kids tomorrow, try to explain—" "Explain what?" Elise cut in. That you've been building a separate family? That you took them to meet your pregnant girlfriend under false pretenses? That you made them complicit in your lies by telling them not to mention the baby shower to me? Marcus looked stricken. Mia told you about that? Of course she did. Because unlike you, our daughter understands that families shouldn't keep secrets from each other. Elise's voice finally cracked with emotion. Do you have any idea what you've done to them? The position you put them in? Asking them to compartmentalize? To lie by omission? To accept your friend who's having a baby without questioning the situation? I'll make it right, he promised desperately. Somehow I'll make it right. No, Marcus, you won't. Because some things can't be fixed. She pushed the stack of papers toward him. Take these, read them. Remember exactly who you became and what you were willing to sacrifice. Then decide if that person deserves to be in our children's lives. You're talking about custody, he realized, his face paling. I'm talking about responsibility, Elise corrected. About facing the consequences of your actions. Marcus stared at her, seeming to truly see her for the first time in months. Her strength, her clarity, her unwavering sense of what was right. What do you want from me, Elise? Just tell me. She considered the question carefully. I want you to leave tonight. Stay at a hotel with a friend, I don't care where. Tomorrow we'll meet with Rachel to discuss divorce terms. Then we'll decide together how and what to tell the children. And after that? After that, we'll be co-parents, she said simply. Nothing more. The finality in her voice seemed to strike him physically. You're really done, aren't you? Just like that? No, not just like that. After discovering months of lies, financial deception, and a pregnant girlfriend you were planning a life with. After watching you involve our children in your deception. After learning you've been systematically plotting to leave me with as little as possible. She shook her head. This isn't a rash decision, Marcus. This is the only possible outcome. For a moment, he looked like he might argue further. Then his shoulders slumped in defeat. I'll pack a bag. As he trudged upstairs, Elise sat alone in the kitchen, surrounded by the remnants of the life they'd built together. She felt oddly weightless, as if the discovery of his betrayal had severed the last threads tethering her to a marriage that had perhaps been unraveling for longer than she'd realized. Her phone buzzed with a text from Rachel. Just heard from the police. Vanessa is being held overnight bail hearing tomorrow. How are you holding up? Better than expected, Elise replied. Marcus is leaving tonight. Meeting tomorrow to discuss terms? My office, 10 a.m. I'll have the paperwork ready. Elise set down her phone, listening to Marcus moving around upstairs, the soft thud of dresser drawers closing, the zip of a suitcase. The sounds of an ending, or perhaps, she thought with surprising clarity, the sounds of a beginning. The following morning, Elise met with Rachel to finalize their strategy before Marcus arrived. The events of the previous day had shifted the power dynamic completely. With Vanessa in custody and the evidence of Marcus's deception laid bare, his position was significantly weakened. We have him cornered, Rachel explained, reviewing the documents on her desk. Financial deception, taking the children across state lines without permission, the LLC with hidden assets, not to mention a pregnant girlfriend who broke into your home. Any judge would look unfavorably on his actions. I don't want to destroy him, Elise said, surprising herself with the realization. I just want what's fair. Rachel studied her friend carefully. Define fair. Full custody of the children, with generous visitation for Marcus. The house. Half of the business. The true half. Not the artificially devalued portion he was planning to offer. And the Sedona property returned to our joint assets, then sold. That's essentially everything we discussed before, Rachel noted. Nothing's changed in your demands despite yesterday's drama? Elise considered this. I'm not interested in punishment. I'm interested in justice and moving forward. The children need both parents in their lives, even if one of those parents has made terrible choices. Rachel nodded approvingly. That's why you're going to come out of this with your dignity intact. Marcus can't say the same. When Marcus arrived, he looked like he hadn't slept, his usual polished appearance replaced by rumpled clothes and shadowed eyes. He nodded stiffly to Elise before taking a seat across from Rachel's desk. "Before we begin," he said, "I want it known that I'm prepared to accept full responsibility for my actions. I won't contest anything reasonable." Rachel raised an eyebrow. "That's a change from your previous position." "Yesterday was clarifying," he admitted, glancing briefly at Elise. The meeting proceeded with surprising efficiency. Marcus agreed to all of Elise's terms with minimal negotiation, adding only that he wanted a formal commitment regarding visitation rights and a promise that, if circumstances stabilized, they could revisit the custody arrangement in a year. "What about Vanessa and the baby?" Elise asked, the question that had been hovering unspoken throughout the discussion. Marcus looked pained. "I spoke with her briefly this morning before her bail hearing. She's still very upset, but I've made it clear that while I'll support our child financially and be present in her life, our relationship is over." "How did she take that?" Rachel asked. "About as well as you'd expect," he replied grimly. "But I think yesterday was a wake-up call for her, too. She crossed a line she can't uncross." After the meeting concluded and the preliminary agreements were signed, Marcus asked to speak with Elise alone. Rachel reluctantly agreed, stepping out of her office but leaving the door ajar. "Thank you," he said once they were alone, "for being fair despite everything I've done." "I'm not doing it for you," Elise clarified. "I'm doing it for our children, and for myself. I refuse to be consumed by bitterness, no matter how justified it might be." He nodded, accepting this. "There's something else you should know. I called David this morning and told him everything. About Vanessa, about the financial maneuvers, all of it. He was horrified, to put it mildly. I've agreed to step back from day-to-day operations until the divorce is settled." Elise was surprised by this voluntary act of professional contrition. "That couldn't have been easy." "None of this is easy," Marcus admitted. "But it's necessary. I've been living in a fantasy world, Elise. It's time I faced reality." She studied him, trying to reconcile this humbled version with the man who had so methodically betrayed her. "Why did you do it? Really? Was it just that you fell for someone else, or was there more to it?" Marcus considered the question carefully. "I think I got addicted to the feeling of being adored. Vanessa looked at me like I was the answer to everything, like I could do no wrong. It was intoxicating." He shook his head. "But it wasn't real. Neither was the version of me that existed with her." "And what about Sophia?" Elise asked, referring to the unborn child who was an innocent party in all this. "What happens to her?" "I'll be her father," he said with unexpected firmness. "Not the way I planned, not in the household I imagined, but I won't abandon her. I've already caused enough damage." Something in his sincerity touched Elise despite herself. "The children will need to know they have a half-sister, not immediately, but eventually." "I know. I'll follow your lead on when and how to tell them." He hesitated, then added, "For what it's worth, I'm sorry. Not just for getting caught, but for every decision that led us here. You deserved better." "Yes," Elise agreed simply. "I did." That evening, Catherine brought the children home. Elise and Marcus sat them down together in the living room, where just yesterday Vanessa had shattered both pottery and illusions. "We have something important to talk about," Elise began gently. "Dad and I have decided that we need to live apart for a while." Mia's face crumpled immediately, while Lucas looked between them in confusion. "Is this because of Dad's friend with the baby?" Mia asked, her perceptiveness startling both parents. Marcus took a deep breath. "It's complicated, sweetheart, but yes, that's part of it. I made some mistakes that hurt Mom very much, and we need some time apart to figure things out." "Are you getting divorced?" Lucas asked, the word sounding harsh from his 10-year-old mouth. Elise and Marcus exchanged a glance. "Yes," Elise said honestly, "but that doesn't change how much we both love you." And it doesn't change that we're still your parents, always. Where will Dad live? Lucas wanted to know. I'm staying at a hotel right now, Marcus explained. But soon I'll find a place nearby so you can stay with me sometimes. We'll work all that out together. Mia, always the more emotional of the two, began crying quietly. I knew something was wrong on the trip, she said between tears. Everyone was acting weird, and that lady kept touching Dad's arm, and there was that party we weren't supposed to talk about. Elise moved to sit beside her daughter, pulling her close. I know it was confusing, honey, and I'm sorry you were put in that position. Is Dad's friend going to be your girlfriend now? Lucas asked Marcus directly, his young face serious. Marcus shook his head. No, buddy. That was a mistake too. But the baby she's having is my responsibility, which means when she's born, you'll have a half-sister. This new information landed like a bombshell in the room. Mia's crying intensified, while Lucas's eyes widened with shock. I know this is a lot to take in, Elise said, holding Mia tighter. And we don't have to figure everything out tonight. For now, just know that we both love you more than anything in the world, and that will never, ever change. The conversation continued, painfully but necessarily, as the children processed the shattering of their family structure. Marcus answered their questions honestly but age-appropriately, never shirking responsibility for his actions. Elise maintained her composure, focusing on reassuring the children rather than assigning blame. When it was time for Marcus to leave, both children hugged him fiercely, as if afraid he might disappear completely. Elise watched, her heart breaking for them even as she maintained her resolve that this separation was necessary and right. I'll call you tomorrow, Marcus promised them. And we'll figure out when you can come stay with me once I find a place. At the door, he turned to Elise. Thank you, he said quietly, for handling that with such grace. They deserve nothing less, she replied. From both of us. After he left, Elise held her children close on the couch, answering more questions, drying more tears, beginning the long process of healing that lay ahead. As difficult as the conversation had been, she felt a curious sense of peace. The truth, however painful, was out in the open now. No more secrets, no more lies, no more pretense. Mom? Lucas asked, his voice small in the quiet living room. Are you going to be okay? Elise looked at her son, struck by his concern for her amidst his own confusion and pain. Yes, sweetheart, she said with genuine certainty. We're all going to be okay. Different, but okay. And for the first time, since discovering Marcus's betrayal, she truly believed it. 18 months later, Elise adjusted the string lights on the patio, preparing for Mia's 14th birthday dinner. The summer evening was perfect, warm with a gentle breeze carrying the scent of jasmine from the garden she'd planted last fall. Mom! Lucas called from inside the house. Dad and Sophia are here. Elise took a deep breath, smoothing her sundress before heading inside. Even after all this time, these moments of intersection, when their separate lives briefly converged, required a certain steeling of her spirit. Marcus stood in the entryway, looking both familiar and strange. Beside him was 15-month-old Sophia in a pink dress, dark curls framing a face that strikingly resembled Mia's baby photos. Hi, Marcus said, the single syllable carrying the weight of their complicated history. Traffic was brutal. No problem, Elise replied easily. We're still setting up. Mia's in her room getting ready. Lucas approached his half-sister with the fascination that had characterized their relationship since they'd first met. Hey, Soph, he said, making a silly face that earned him a delighted giggle. Thanks for including Sophia in the celebration, Marcus said quietly as Lucas entertained the toddler. I know these joint events aren't easy. She's Mia's sister, Elise said simply. Family is family, regardless of how it came to be. The path to this moment of relative peace had been neither straight nor easy. The divorce had proceeded as agreed, with Marcus accepting all of Elise's terms. Vanessa had eventually been sentenced to probation for the break-in, and after Sophia's birth, had moved back to Los Angeles to be closer to her parents, leaving Marcus to navigate fatherhood across two households. The first 6 months had been the hardest. Mia had struggled with anger toward her father, refusing visits and returning from mandatory ones silent and withdrawn. Lucas had become fiercely protective of Elise, watching Marcus with suspicious eyes whenever he came to pick them up. And Elise herself had cycled through grief, rage, and numbness as she adjusted to her new reality. But gradually, imperceptibly, healing had begun. Marcus had proven consistent in his remorse and his commitment to being present for all 3 of his children. He'd never missed a support payment, never been late for a visitation, never spoken ill of Elise to the children. When Sophia was born, he'd taken his parental responsibilities seriously, flying to Los Angeles regularly to maintain his relationship with his youngest daughter. Vanessa, for her part, had undergone court-mandated therapy as part of her probation. The unstable, desperate woman who had broken into their home had gradually been replaced by someone more grounded, who recognized the damage her actions had caused. While she and Elise would never be friends, they had reached a détente for Sophia's sake. "Mom!" Mia appeared at the top of the stairs, her face lighting up when she saw her father. Despite everything, her love for him had eventually overridden her anger. "Dad, you brought Sophia!" She hurried down to hug them both, cooing over her little sister's dress. The sight still provoked complicated feelings in Elise. This child who was tangible proof of Marcus's betrayal was also an innocent who shared her own children's blood. "Catherine and James should be here soon," Elise said, checking her watch. "And your mom just texted that she's 10 minutes away," she added to Marcus. His mother, Judith, had been a surprising source of support for Elise throughout the divorce, refusing to excuse her son's behavior despite their bond. She'd maintained her relationship with Elise and the children, even as she welcomed Sophia into her heart as well. As they moved to the backyard, Elise caught a glimpse of her reflection in the window. She looked different now, stronger, more self-possessed. The woman who had once defined herself primarily as Marcus's wife and the children's mother had discovered other dimensions of her identity. Her therapy practice had thrived, with a focus on helping women navigate major life transitions. She'd expanded to a larger office, hired 2 associates, and developed a waiting list of clients drawn to her compassionate but no-nonsense approach. The pain of her own experience had deepened her understanding of others, making her a more effective therapist than ever before. "This looks amazing," Marcus commented, surveying the transformed backyard. Lanterns hung from tree branches, and the long table was set with colorful plates and fresh flowers. "You've always had an eye for making occasions special." "Mia helped plan everything," Elise replied, deflecting the compliment. She wanted something Instagram-worthy but also meaningful. They fell into an easy rhythm of preparation, moving around each other with the familiarity of people who had shared a life, even if that life was now divided. Lucas entertained Sophia while Mia arranged her presents on a side table, excitedly describing each plan for the evening. The doorbell announced Catherine and James's arrival, followed shortly by Judith. Conversation flowed, sometimes awkwardly but mostly warmly, as they celebrated the beautiful, thoughtful young woman Mia was becoming. During a quiet moment as the others served cake, Marcus approached Elise where she stood adjusting the music playlist. "I've been meaning to tell you," he said, his voice carrying a note of hesitancy. "I'm seeing someone." Elise looked up, studying his face. "Is it serious?" "Getting there," he admitted. "Her name is Rebecca. She's a widow with a son about Lucas's age. We've been dating for 3 months." Elise nodded, searching herself for jealousy but finding only a mild curiosity. "Do the kids know?" "Not yet. I wanted to talk to you first. Make sure we handle it right this time." "I appreciate that." She considered for a moment. Maybe start with individual conversations before any meetings. Mia might have stronger feelings about it than Lucas. "That's good advice." He hesitated, then added, What about you? Anyone special in your life? Elise smiled slightly. Not yet. I'm enjoying the space to just be myself right now. It wasn't the whole truth. There had been a few dates with a literature professor she'd met through a friend. Nothing serious yet, but promising. But that was her private business, not something she needed to share with Marcus. He nodded, seeming to understand both what she said and what she didn't. You deserve happiness, Elise. Real happiness, not the kind built on lies. We all do, she replied simply. Later, as the gathering wound down and guests began to leave, Elise found herself sitting beside Judith on the porch swing, watching Marcus help Mia arrange her presents while Lucas showed Sophia how to chase fireflies in the yard. You've done remarkably well, Judith observed, her wise eyes missing nothing. Many women would have been destroyed by what Marcus did. I came close, Elise admitted. There were days I could barely get out of bed. But you did, Judith noted. Every time. And look at what you've built from the ruins. A thriving practice, a peaceful co-parenting relationship, a home that's still full of love. Elise considered this assessment. I had no choice but to move forward. The children needed me to be whole. That's not entirely true, Judith countered gently. You could have chosen bitterness. Many would have, given the circumstances. Instead, you chose dignity and grace. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the fireflies blink in the gathering dusk. I worried about you the most, Judith continued finally. More than Marcus, more than the children even. They're young, resilient. He made his bed. But you had your entire life upended through no fault of your own. Not entirely true either, Elise said with hard-won wisdom. Our marriage had problems before Vanessa. Marcus's choices were his own. But the distance between us was something we both created. Judith squeezed her hand affectionately. And that's exactly why you're thriving now. You can see the whole picture, not just the parts that paint you as the victim. As the evening ended and Marcus prepared to leave with Sophia, Mia hugged her father tightly. Thanks for coming, Dad, and for my present. It's perfect. Anything for you, sweetheart, he replied, his voice thick with emotion. Happy birthday. Lucas gave him a more reserved hug but a genuine smile. See you this weekend? Absolutely. We'll finish that model we started. Finally, Marcus turned to Elise. Thank you for today. For everything, really, she nodded, accepting his gratitude without need for elaboration. They both understood the journey they'd traveled, from betrayal through rage and grief to this new equilibrium. As his car pulled away, Elise stood with an arm around each of her children, watching the taillights disappear down the street. The family they had been was gone forever, shattered by choices that couldn't be undone. But from those fragments, something new had formed. Not perfect, not what she would have chosen, but solid and real nonetheless. Inside you two, she said, squeezing her children close. It's getting late. Later, after the children had gone to bed, Elise sat alone on her patio, nursing a glass of wine and listening to the night sounds of her neighborhood. The painful chapter that had begun 18 months ago with an Instagram notification in the middle of the night had not ended so much as transformed into a different story, one still being written day by day. She had lost the life she thought was hers, the future she had planned. But in that loss, she had discovered reserves of strength she hadn't known she possessed, depths of resilience she had never tested. She had learned that she could be broken and still be whole, betrayed and still capable of trust, wounded and still able to heal. Her phone buzzed with a text message from the literature professor. Hope the birthday celebration went well. Coffee tomorrow? Elise smiled, typing back. It was perfect. Coffee sounds great. She set down her phone and looked up at the stars, bright and clear in the summer sky. The path forward was uncertain, as all futures are. But for the first time in a long while, that uncertainty felt like possibility rather than threat. She was ready for whatever came next.
And that wraps up today's story. Now we want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and let's see how far these stories reach. If this story moved you or gave you chills, give it a like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. One last thing, rate the story from 1 to 10 in the comments. Your feedback helps us bring you even better ones next time. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you being part of this storytelling journey.